about a minute before we're officially live. People can hear us, but they can't see us.
Okay.
So no incriminating chatter. Only nice things. All right. Get over to Twitch.
Well, as my folks always said, if you can't say anything nice. As my folks always said, if you can't say anything nice, can't say anything.
Sorry, I was getting an echo there for a second.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think when I brought up the Twitch chat to our frame, it wasn't muted initially. I heard you say your parents told you not to say anything nice like 5 times or a few times or something.
Yeah.
That's good though. That's a good thing to reiterate, actually. You know.
Just trying to pop out the chat myself.
Cyberpunk Uncensored.
Mr. Find, for those that don't know better.
Get all my windows lined up.
All right, we are officially live. Now it might take a little moment for me to get the chat going. I do want to incorporate, the live chat in with what we're doing. So while I get that set up, and I see, like I said during the beginning, I see PWB is in the chat. I really appreciate that. But yeah, if you while I try to work on this chat situation, why don't you just do a little introduction to yourself, and then I'll kind of explain what the deep dive thing is here. But yeah, everybody watching, let's get a little breakdown of Phil Harker-Smith.
Sure. Hi. I'm Phil. On Twitter, you can find me at Scruff. That's SKKRUF. And I am 1/4 of Baby Beard Media. So we are a bunch of Adelaide, Australia-based actors, comedians, directors, producers, and we make all sorts of gaming content, from Let's Plays to tabletop RPG content. And our tabletop RPG content is mainly our flagship show, which is a show called Roll to Cast. And we do a different season. We do a different game every season with an original story and a brand new soundtrack as well. And we've done all sorts of games. So we've done Cyberpunk 2020. We've done Vampire the Masquerade. Our third season was Cyberpunk Red. It was actually we had the honor of being the first ever campaign of Cyberpunk Red, as RTG gave us the rules a little bit early to get that out for you guys. And we're currently in a Pulp Cthulhu season as well. Next up, we got Kids on Bikes. And we also get around and guest in other people's RPGs. We're currently playing our campaign characters from Roll to Cast in John the Wise's game, where he's continued our unique setting of Heaven, which is like an anarchist skyscraper in Night City. So yeah, we get around. We try to do as much RPG stuff as we can.
I was lucky enough to have the origin story for Sprocket, Ellen's character. I was excited about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing crossover role play like I did it with Wandering DM, and
it's rad. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I hit up Ellen and we were kind of like, oh, let's do a little crossover and have fun. And she came up with the idea like, oh, maybe this could be like Sprocket's origin story, like when she first got into like her first mission, and that's what got her into it. And then she headed off to heaven or whatever. I was like, that's really cool. So I love shit.
Yeah,
like
I love this shared universe thing.
Yeah.
The project I'm working on at the moment that I'm most excited about is I got asked by Jay Gray of Artosorian Games and Sirenscape to run a weekly game for 8 weeks on the Sirenscape YouTube channel. And if you're not familiar with Sirenscape, it's a wicked little program where you can do soundscapes and music and sound effects live for your players as you GM. It's a really powerful tool, and they're doing some Cyberpunk Red sound sets, which I know my friend has been involved in. My friend here has been involved in putting his own tracks down, which is awesome. And they wanted to show these off, so they started running a Cyberpunk Red game, which they asked me to write a campaign for and DM. So that happens on Thursday nights American time on the Sirenscape YouTube channel. It's called Out on a Limb. It's got the most amazing cast of like wonderful creators from the RPG sphere. And I'm having an absolute blast doing that. So all the VODs are up if you guys want to go back and check it out, or tune in live on Thursday evenings for this really cool, really role play focused Cyberpunk Red campaign. And as you're saying, it carries on this kind of like ongoing crossover universe thing that we got going, where the characters all kind of center around this place called Heaven, and there's like shared stories and stuff. So it's really exciting. Enjoying that.
Oh yeah, I've been having a lot of fun watching. I've been tuning in and checking it out. And
Yeah, I see you in the chat, man. Thank you for supporting.
Yeah, you're doing an awesome job. And everybody playing too, not just you. Players are doing good too.
They're great.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Everyone should check it out. And just to give another shout out to Sirenscape, they are an official sponsor of Cyberpunk Uncensored. I run that for all my live gameplay, and I even run it for some of the series I do. Like we do, me and Phil, we do the GM Roundtable the second Saturday of every month. We bring in different GMs and such, and I like to kind of like put some noises back there. I do my Night City live series about all Night City things, and again in there we put city sounds. And now we're doing the deep dive series. I've done one on Netrunners, one on the tech, and I've had different guests in. Check those out on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube. Those are VOD'd over there. But this episode of Deep Dive is about the med tech, and obviously bringing in Phil Harker-Smith. And that being said, I'm going to hop over here to Sirenscape and just get some med tech sounds going just for our background, because they do have a whole Ripper Doc and med tech sound set there.
Yeah, so nice.
Yeah, that'll give us a little something in the background for people. I just love Sirenscape. Whether it's gameplay or shit like this, it just adds so much flavor,
Oh yeah, and we've been doing this stuff in post. So our podcast is a post edited. We record, then we edit, and we add in music and sound effects. And the ability to do it live now is just unparalleled. So good.
Oh yeah, awesome. And everybody in chat, thanks for coming in early. I see Renegade in there. Yeah, and you subbed, man. Really appreciate that. Renegade also plays in my monthly ongoing with Tarabella Pondsmith and Steve from Sirenscape. And
Tarabella's a bit of a monster combat-wise.
Oh, she's a badass. Yeah. She's plays this little tiny girl solo that's got all these body mods, and just she's so stacked, and just she has like a body of 11. She's had to go through so much therapy just to be normal, but she's all about.
She doesn't work for Mitsuko, does she?
No.
Danger girl. She could get recruited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and I see my beautiful wife Valerie in the chat too, who plays Raven in our weekly ongoing. However, yeah, our weekly, just so anybody knows, we do our weekly ongoing on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. But this week, we're actually not doing it. Me and Val, we have a little filmmaking project. We're actually going to be going and chilling with Tommy Chong again. I don't know if anybody knows, but I'm involved in filmmaking. I'm a producer, director, writer, actor, and so is my wife. And we're good friends with Tommy Chong, and we've done different events with him, with tourists coming and chilling with him. And when I was performing live, I'm good friends with his son and their whole family. But he was in my puppet show. I'm getting him in some other film stuff. But Wednesday, we're going to go hang out with him. I haven't seen him in over a year because of the whole quarantine thing. And yeah, we're going to postpone the live stream. I'm going to go chill with Tommy Chong, and maybe I'll post some live stream of hanging out with him or some videos of that. So if anybody's into that, tune in and check it out. But yeah, let's dive in. Let's dive into the med tech. So
yeah,
before we go into this, let me say this is not going to be about the role ability. Okay, it's not going to be about medicine and the med tech and the crunch and the mechanics of it. If you want that, I have a whole med tech breakdown series, crash course, tutorial series on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube, all about Cyberpunk Red. You can check out the med tech, get all the crunch and the details. This is going to be more about style. This is going to be about the life path, archetypes, recommended stats and skills. So anybody watching, that's what's up. If you want to know about the mechanics, check out that other shit. What were you going to say, Phil?
We might just touch briefly on where you want to put your specializations without getting into the points.
Oh, yeah.
Because medtech's one of those great roles where you have quite a lot of leeway in where you put your specialization points. Mm-hmm. So we will touch on like which kind of archetype you want to go for, whether it's surgery or pharmaceuticals. But yeah, like I said, go into the crunch video for the real deep dive stuff.
Exactly. So that being said, let me just give a brief description here, straight from the book, but medtechs are unsanctioned street doctors and cyberware medics patching up meat and metal alike. So yeah, whether dealing with cyberware or real meat, they're the support there. They're the ones healing you. Now there's all different angles that this can be done. Like Phil said, there's specifics on how you can drop your points and what type of medtech. We'll get there. But let's start with the life path. One thing about Cyberpunk Red, they have that really deep, elaborate life path system. And then aside from that, just the general life path system, each individual role has its own tables and, life path system, which is so badass. So that's what I want to focus on. Let's get into the medtech specific life path, and Phil, if you want to kind of just take it chart for chart, line for line, and we'll kind of just dive into these ideas.
Let's get in there. So it starts with a big question, obviously. What kind of medtech are you? And this is where everything else is going to sort of branch on the base you're going to have everything on top of. And they've got 10 really nice options here. So we start off with surgeon. Right, so we've got basic surgeon, you know, doing all the deep dive gritty stuff, getting in there and fixing people's innards. Or the general practitioner, you know, apparently still got the doctor you go to weekly, got a sniffle, got a cold, you're treating gangers and boosters alike, you know, or maybe you live in a lovely exec compound, you know, and the rich folk come to you to work out what's wrong with their son, you know.
I love that idea too, like how you already angled that into options, and I love that how, like, you know, general practitioner, but yeah, truly, like, there can be details within that. Like, are you the guy handling the basic shit like a family physician, but are you doing it like in the combat zone or in the corporate zone, or, like, you know, it can totally be different.
I love this. That's a great idea. You know, there's someone who runs like this free or nearly free clinic in the combat zone for underserved people, you know, and you're just doing it out of the goodness of your heart. That sounds a really awesome kind of origin story. You got trauma medics, you know, you're on the front lines, whether you're in the army or you're just doing it for your gang or your friends. Psychiatrist, obviously we live in a traumatic time in Red. Cyber psychotherapist, for people who've really gone over the edge.
Like Tarabella Pond-Smith.
Yeah, that's right.
Like her character.
There are, you know, I like the way that they have, you know, put a path back for people from that. You're not just a write-off.
Yeah.
And there are rules around therapy. You can read up on therapy and be like, if that's what you want to do and you want to be part of the solution to people who've kind of started to dissociate, you can totally build your medtech around that. Then you got the absolute classic, the Ripperdoc. Everyone knows and loves the Ripperdoc, the person who puts in, takes out, and repairs your cyberware. Cryosystems operator. This is sort of like an extension of the trauma medic, the person who just sticks you in a bag, freezes you, and gets you off the battlefield, and then sticks you in a tank so you can heal up and get straight back into the action. Cryosystems got this really great kind of niche where they accelerate the natural healing, which can be quite slow. It just relies on your natural healing abilities. A pharmacist, both illicit and therapeutic. Several options there. Body sculptor. So, you know, this is a very specialist surgeon. In Red, in Cyberpunk, your body sculpting is extremely versatile and virtually undetectable. So the way people mostly figure out that you're a body sculptor is you being body sculpted is you just look gorgeous. You're too good looking. And people are like, yeah, probably a sculpt job. You know, probably going to be servicing the more rich clients if you're a body sculptor, but who knows? There are vain gangers out there, poser gangers as well, who want to all look a certain way, all want to look like Elvis or Marilyn Monroe or whoever. You know, you make a dime, you know, getting crazy poser gangs the right look. And then finally we've got the forensic pathologist. So you're Dr. House of the world, right? Your person who is hunting down viruses or strange infections, bacteria, which can be a very cool plot line, I think. You know, and if you're a GM and your player dives down that route, then you can definitely go into a sort of like a modern plague kind of style storyline and give them lots of challenges based on that particular archetype.
Oh, yeah.
So you got a really wide range of, just to begin with already, you got this really wide range of potential ideas just in this one 10-part table. And even inside these, there are all these different options as well.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it is, like, even within those, and like you said earlier about the general practitioner, just as an example, it's like they have all these, I don't know, directions you can kind of go as being a specialist in these fields or different things. But even within those, there's different ways you can play it, you know? So it's just, I don't know, I love it. It feels so rich and deep, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just like the idea that, you know, medicine's a very kind of exclusive field in our day. It's very hard to become a medic, but in Red it's a bit more accessible. It's a bit more of a technical job. You can sort of teach yourself to learn a cryosystem or read up on CityNet and be kind of self-taught, which is really cool, which means really opens up your origins.
Oh yeah. No, I love it, and I think that that forensic pathologist, I like the idea of, like you mentioned about House or whatever, but I love the idea of, from a GM point of view, you can really get into, like you said, some like designer plagues, or like maybe some government conspiracy thing, like infecting people in the combat zone, or this corp versus this corp, or like, I don't know, there can be like some
affecting crops.
Yeah, there can be all kind of like
yeah.
twists with that. I don't know, just I don't know, I like that number 10 a lot. Sounds fun.
Oh, yeah, I think it would be really great to kind of base a campaign around that kind of idea of number 10.
Yeah, I think Psychiatrist 2, number 4, Psychiatrist. That one sounds really interesting to me too, because I don't think I've ever seen anybody play it that way. Like, I think, how interesting to have a med tech that like has an office where like, people are coming in regularly and laying on the couch and pouring out their emotions, but it leads to you kind of learning about different corrupt things happening or whatever. I don't know. I could see it leading into things. Maybe someone
maybe it's the way you...
Yeah, and maybe someone's flexing on you for that info too. Like, I can see it different angles that you could kind of, I don't know, flex that creative muscle. But psychiatrist sounds really interesting.
Maybe it's the way you pick up, jobs to your crew.
Yeah.
People come spill their guts, and then you're like, oh,
I can fix that. I can fix that with more than just words. I have a team that can help you with that, like. But yeah, once you get
and
through
as we say, Red's a dark time. A lot of people are living in slums and containers and stuff, trying to put their lives back together. Psychologist is really a good person to have around. And if you're a GM who loves to like get into the individual like little stories and texture of the world, people living in the combat zones or trying to eke out an existence, having a psychologist kind of throw these weekly NPCs in, really cool kind of flavor invitation there as well.
Yeah, like even this conversation makes me want, like, since I don't have one in any of the teams I'm running right now, it makes me want to create an NPC psychiatrist that I can incorporate and do some of these things, because just this conversation, I don't know, it's making me think of really fun ideas.
That's what's so good about these tables. We can move on to whether you partnered up or not as well.
Yeah. Once you get, you figure out what type, you decide, or do you have a partner, or do you work alone? In which case, then you go to one of two tables.
Well, we always end up at your workspace, whether you got a partner or not. But your partner, they've got six options here for ideas of who your partner might be. A trauma team group. You can run a whole game as a trauma team group. You got your solos enforcing. You got maybe your nomad flying the truck, flying your AV, or maybe it's your side gig and your crew are separate from that. An old friend. I mean, you can go anywhere with that one. Possible romantic partner as well. A bit of tension you can add in there. Maybe it's one of the other characters. That's really cool. Family member, family business. Again, lots of propositions here about who your partner is. Secret partner with the mob or gang connections, and then secret partner with corporate connections. So there's lots of kind of ways of this prompt here for how your work connects to your life, essentially, whether it's family, whether it's your crew, whether it's corporations. Loads of good options.
I think an interesting thing to point out here too for players, whether GMs or players, but I would lean more on a player to kind of decide their angle of their partner. But I like the fact it says, secret partner with mob or gang, or secret partner with corporate connections. Now, does that mean secret to the public? Does that mean secret within the corp, like you're not registered and not really working for them? Is it a secret to your own team? That could be fun. Maybe it's something you work out with the GM and there's side things that come in, but unless the players pick up on where it's coming from, it's something that you're doing downtime in between that's dragging in, and then it can become a main focal point eventually, or it could be uncovered by other players. But I think there's a lot of, I don't know, interesting angles you can play when you hear, secret partner. It doesn't just have to be face value, like the partner's a secret. Think of all the different ways that could be a secret. I think that's interesting.
Everyone's trying to make their hustle as well, So if you've got a connection to the corporate world, that's something you're going to hold very close to your chest. Renegade's talking about how having two different kinds of medtech in their game at the same time, which can be really cool to see the contrast between them. Where you've got like a surgery and then someone specializing in pharmacy as well with chemistry. So your chemistry, you can make your own drugs. You can really follow that archetype of the lab doctor cooking things up rather than the steady hands
Exactly.
on the operating table. And having those two diametrically opposed in the same game is really great. I haven't seen that many campaigns yet with like multiple of the same role.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of that. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of that too till now. Renegade mentioned it, and now thinking about it, yeah, I could see. I find that interesting, having the same roles, but like you said, different ways to play that, so it makes sense. Because I've thought of that, on a lawman sort of way, where it's like a team fighting crime or doing things maybe, and they're all different divisions of the law or whatever, or of that team. But I like that angle, that med tech option. I think that could be a lot of fun. And I do want to point out, like, because they do mention too, when it says about your partner, a trauma team group, and see, that's where that could kind of play in too. Like if you have multiple med techs and they're in a trauma team group and doing different types of med techs. But I also want to mention, what the hell's wrong with REO Meat Wagon? Why is it always got to be trauma team? No one ever shouts out REO Meat Wagon. You notice that?
Trauma team's got the name, man.
I know, it does sound cooler.
It's all about market capitalization.
It's true. I still like
Meat Wagon. Let me call the Meat Wagon.
It's funny.
So now we go to a little bit of your workspace stuff, what that looks like. And again, there are these are just little prompts to kind of build the detail from, I feel like. So you got sterilized daily in the morning like clockwork. So very precise, care deeply about the part, your workspace around you. It's not state of the art anymore, but it's comfortable to you. Your cryo equipment is also used to cool drinks, which is what my med tech does. She's 72. She doesn't give a toss anymore. Everything possible is single use and stored compacted until needed. I really like this idea of like a pop-up clinic. Maybe it's in the back of your Nomad's RV or something. It's kitted out and it's literally just like it all pulls out from any which way, drops out from the bed or a drawer under the sink. It's really cool. And you just drive in your armored RV, like help people out and then go out of the hot zone again. Not as clean as many of your patients may have hoped.
I like that.
You try. And then meticulously organized, sharpened, and sterilized. So there's a little bit of crossover in these, but they basically give you a nice kind of base to start from. Are you rough and ready? Are you self-taught? Are you just trying to kind of put it together? When people walk in to get care from you, do they go, okay, sure, I don't have any other options, so I guess you'll do? Or are they sort of amazed at how professional you managed to keep it in the time of the Red? And I think, as it is today, your workspace says a lot about you, and how characters react to your workspace. There's a lot of good role-playing opportunities there.
Well, and I think you just tapped into something too that very important. This is the time of Red, and anyone who's familiar with that lore, I mean, hell, it's a filthy fucking time. There's like just nuclear fallout, debris and shit everywhere, reconstruction, everyone finally getting back, and then you got blood rains happening often, and like, yeah, in order to keep a sterilized workspace or that type of environment as a med tech, it says a lot. And I do feel like, a little bit of crossover when I read number 1 and number 6, because it's like that sterilized daily in the morning like clockwork. But number 6 to me is like number 1, but like on steroids or acid or something, or just a crazy version of. I feel like number 1, that sterilized daily in the morning like clockwork, is a really sharp med tech that like keeps everything meticulous. He has to be on schedule, so he's doing that every morning like clockwork. But then other things he do, I imagine, are like clockwork, or like I don't know, done right, I guess, not wrong, not haphazardly. But number 6, the fact it says meticulously organized, sharpened, and sterilized, but doesn't say, in the morning like clockwork. I feel like, I don't know, for me, I interpret that as like it's all the time. Like they're almost OCD style with it because they're meticulously organized, sharpened, and sterilized. Yeah. It just seems like they're intense.
It's the difference between professionalism and obsession, I think.
There you go. Well put.
Yeah. So, are you professional? Are you clean cut, or are you just a little bit too much.
Yeah, exactly. But I love those. I think if it was for me, because I've never played a med tech, and I haven't dove into those specifics. We have one on our team, and we've done some LifePath stuff. But for me, I would probably find more fun in that number 6, because I think I would try to play him very OCD and almost a little over the top. I think that might be kind of fun. Might annoy the other players, but it'd be fun for me, I guess.
So next page, and if you're following along with the rule book with us, this is page 61. With a great piece of art here by Hello Pranzo, showing like someone's home clinic with the arcade cabinet off to one side, which I love.
Oh yeah.
They got their dream car on the back wall, and just their setup there. And the next section is who are your main clients. Again, there's 6 options here. Local fixers who send you clients. Pretty solid all around option for all sorts of classes, roles to have a fixer sort you out. Local gangers who also protect your work area or home in exchange for medical help. A little bit of exchange happening. Corporate execs who use you for black project medical work, which can tie into your sort of like secret partner stuff. Local solos or other combat types who use you for medical help. Again, if you're a sort of trauma specialist, you could have very particular clientele who know that you not only do good work, but you keep stum about it as well. And then local nomads or fixers who bring you wounded clients. It's kind of like the one, but it gives you a bit more of a scope to kind of work on the fringes of the city as well. And then trauma team paramedical work. If you have a day job, if you have a contract with trauma team and you work shifts in the AVs, it's a really fun way to base a campaign.
And again, no mention of REO Meatwagon, goddammit. Those poor guys, those poor bastards. They're trying.
I'm trying to think of the equivalent.
I was too. That's why I was just like, poor bastards. They're trying. I was hoping I could think of like name brand and not name brand version.
Yeah, that's right. The budget version.
Like McDonald's and McDowell's on like Coming to America movie. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you have any points on those? Do you know where you'd go in terms of clients?
For me, I think any of those sound really fun. I think as far as GM, I always prefer local fixer probably over solos or nomads or even gangers, because I feel like if you're going solo, it's very combat style, right? If you go nomad, you know what nomads are doing. I like the nomads and fixers. It does have that, but I feel like that's, I don't know. I like the fixer aspect because I'm always a fan of a fixer. That's one of my favorite roles. I mean, obviously, but I like the fact that could be good or bad. Good and bad people, all motivations, moral motivations hire fixers. You need them, whether it's sourcing items and materials or getting the right hire, information, the whole networking aspect. So I think, I don't know, that to me that seems the most diverse. But again, it could lean into the local nomads and fixers as well, because then you also got the nomad option. But to me, like I said, I think solo nomad, it's too narrow. I mean, you can do anything with it, obviously, but nomads are very focused on travel and transport and the source aspect, right? And solos are very combat focused and things. Gangers are always, they have their motivations, whether it's like the dealing in drugs or crime syndicate style, poser or booster or whatever. But like I said, fixers, they almost seem like they're the true neutral, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. Personally, I like to humanize the gangs a little bit more. I think that people join gangs for a sense of safety and security. I think people don't necessarily want to get in there just to be violent or run drugs or something. I think that probably comes in later when people try to make ends meet. So I think just because you're a local gang doesn't mean are you serving local gangs. You're serving just complete psychotic bastards. I think it can be really fun to if you
and
are
there's good gangs
serving
too.
local
You're right.
gamers. Yeah, yeah, there are good gangs as well as vigilante gangs as well that kind of keep people safe, and I think that's a really cool angle to have. That you can if that's like an angle you want to go as a GM, you can humanize the gangs a bit more by having their clients come and come and talk to your character, and maybe they, your players have one attitude about them, and then when you see the struggles that these people have, maybe they have a young family and they're in the gang just for protection for them, or whatever reasons they have, it can really add a bit of nuance to it. And this can be just where they make their hustle as well. This can be separate from where their crew is. So you might be making your scratch serving the local solos whenever they get shot, but your crew does something else, right? And you hooked up with your crew through a different means, and you do kind of specialist work for them in a different way. Maybe you're a rip doc for them rather than a trauma team, rather than like a trauma medic, or you go on jobs for them or something like that. So yeah, I feel like you can either have this as central, or you can have it as a backup as well. You can have it as a background as well.
Yeah. No, like Karen here in the chat says, follow the sounds of shooting to get there before trauma team. I like that. It's almost like, those lawyers that are in traffic, like chasing the ambulance to the accident. You know what I mean? So they can
it's in reference to REO Meatwagon being ambulance chasers.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling that, like REO Meatwagon. They're so desperate. They're like, I heard gunshots. Shit, let's get there before trauma team.
quick.
They're handing out cards. They're like, we can help too. A little bit cheaper.
And then you get crossfire, your trauma team versus Meatwagon on the street.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Smokin says, Big Mac and the Big Mick. Yeah, damn, now I want to watch Coming to America again. Yeah, me too. That shit's hilarious. Yeah, and actually the guy, Amos, the actor, what's his name, John, or the guy who plays the dad, who runs McDonald's, not McDonald's or whatever, he's actually in a film me and Valor are doing production design for coming up in May. So that's going to be cool. I'm going to get to meet him and get some pictures with him and shit. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Nice. And Vlad's here saying there's a conversation in Shadowrun Hong Kong, great game, about how fixers are really key in as middlemen, because they vet people and they make sure that the people who you're getting work from or you're doing work for don't betray you. They vouch for people, and that's really important. I think that's really good when you look at this main client idea. The less kind of vetting you have, the less kind of connections you have, and you're working directly with people, the more kind of dangerous situations you're putting yourself in. And then that's fodder for your GM or the GM, you as a GM, to introduce complications, right? Person can't pay, how are they going to pay you? Or they want you to do a particular, rip-a-doc job, but they don't give you the details, and when you get there, it's not something you want to do, or they put you in danger. There's loads of stuff there if you're not working through a fixer for extra complication.
Yeah, all kinds of great plot twists. And then obviously that you always have the option of, twisting it up and just making it corrupt, because it is cyberpunk, like you can trust people, everything can go well, but at the drop of a hat, maybe someone else pays a little more, and so, it's worth it for them to kind of turn you out or give you up for that money. So things can always take a nice twist. But I agree. I think fixers, again, like they're one of my favorites, but they're always a great, root source for any direction you want to go for gigs and shit, just because they have those options.
If you don't have one in the player crew, it's almost essential you have one as an NPC.
Oh yeah.
Essentially, as a go-between, it's very, very handy for opening parts of the world.
Especially
about supply. Sorry, Karen.
I think you were just going to say it. I was going to say, especially Red, because of the whole you need a fixer supply chain shit. I think you were just saying that.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go into how you get your supplies now, because obviously things aren't as easy as just ordering online or going down to your medical supply warehouse. You've got to find your own stuff. So the 6 ways they suggest are scavenge stashes of medical supplies you find in abandoned city zones. Try saying that 3 times fast.
I know. That one's a rough one.
Yeah, so I feel like this goes for a lot of roles. There are lots of good missions to go on and stuff, one shots and stuff about scavenging runs in parts of the city that haven't been rebuilt yet. We got strip parts from bodies after firefights. We got more of that ambulance chasing. It's more of a battlefield, scavenger. You trawl the combat zone and you just like, oh, this person had some medical supplies.
It just sounds so much like REO Meatwagon. Sorry, again, I'm gonna plug them. Right. I keep going back.
Screw this trauma team game. We got to have a Meatwagon game.
Yeah, for real.
Have a local fixer bring you supplies in exchange for medical work. And again, this is an invitation to establish an NPC relationship or a character relationship with another player. Corporate execs or trauma teams supply you with stuff in exchange for your service. Again, there's no free lunch. You've got to have a give and take. And then obviously you can have complications come through that. An exec who wants you to do something you don't want to do, that sort of thing. You have a backdoor into a few corporate or hospital warehouses. So yeah, there are 1 or 2 hospitals still operating, and obviously everyone's trying to make scratch. So yeah, maybe you have a little bit of a backdoor, but that sort of thing can be tenuous. If your contact goes dark, gets killed, decides they don't want to do it anymore, you might have to scramble to get your supplies at that point. It can make you a bit more precarious if you're relying on under the table stuff. You hit the night markets and score deals wherever you can, which is really cool. The flavor of the night markets. We just had one in Out on the Limb. Turned out to be, they used the table. It turned out to be a weapons and armor and survival gear night market. But the night markets and this idea that rather than everything being centralized through corporations, fixers and whoever nomads will just put together these like impromptu kind of bazaars where you can get anything and everything. It's really, really cool. They make great episodes, great sessions to have a night market. It's not just like going shopping in D&D, although that can be fun as well, obviously, not to disparage D&D. There's loads of encounters and fun stuff that can happen at these night markets. So that's a really good option to have to introduce little episodes and things that happen, haggling, people who approach you while you're out in public, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably the scavenge stashes of medical supplies you find in abandoned cities, and you hit the night markets to score deals whenever you can. Those 2 are my favorite. Probably coming from a GM point of view, I feel like, unless I would go with the local fixer because of the diversity, but I feel that they lead to the most options, at least, because whether I want it to involve an NPC, a corp, a general information they find out, or whatever it is, I feel like it's just so open when I think of scavenging stashes of medical supplies. Like you said, it could be abandoned parts of the city, out in the Badlands, a safe room or something in some other Ripperdoc or medical place or whatever. I just feel like scavenging leaves for so many options and so many possible encounters too while you're doing that. And same with the night markets. I feel like, like you said, there's so many fun things that can go down there. And sometimes it's not as simple as you go there, it's what they have in stock and you buy it, but maybe it's the mingling and like, oh, this is what you want. Okay, well, actually, like, I do know where you can source this, and go talk to my buddy over here, and, next Wednesday, and he'll point you in the right direction. I'll set it up, and here, it can always be more complicated.
Or, that's exclusive. I only do that. I only sell that to people who do stuff for me. How about you do this job for me, and then I'll open up more of my inventory to you. Exactly. I have to know that I trust you first. The stuff's in low supply. So there's a little discussion going on at the moment about how you handle like materials, like especially when you're like producing pharmaceuticals and stuff. And this carries over into the tech role as well, where if you're fabricating or upgrading, you need to have like a certain amount of eddies worth of supplies to make stuff. And I think there's definitely a couple of different approaches. My approach is I'm very role-playing focused, and I kind of try to move this campaign along. And I tend to hand wave most stuff away like that. If you have eddies in the bank, I'll just burn 200 of your resources and say, hey, look, you have a regular supply. That's okay. You burn that to make your meds, or if it's contentious about whether you still have that amount, we'll do some sort of roll for it, whether it's local knowledge or something, persuasion or something, to see if you can get hold of that supply if it's in short supply. Or other people love to do like more meticulous games where you track each of your resources, and you have to take real good care of how much ammo you have, what resources you have, that kind of thing. It's really down to style and detail you want to play as. How do you run that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, no, I think with me, I love, I think it definitely directly correlates to the plot at hand, whatever campaign I'm doing, and I'm like you, I might just streamline that, like, hey, you've got the money, you have access to these general, I don't want to say generic, but these sort of, supplies that's required to do within your specific role ability, like making those pharmaceuticals. Now, if it's not directly correlated to the plot and I just want to streamline and get back to the main shit and it's just part of them using it, I can make that its own side arc. Like you said, it could be like, all right, you want to do that, but you're actually running low on supplies. You know, you've made some stuff over the past months, you got to get more of this, and your normal hookup for that is actually out of town, or he's not answering his phone, or you know, you usually go to this place to go get it, but when you get there, it's not the normal people running the place that have been there, and they're kind of looking at you weird. And I don't know, there's so many different ways that you can play that. If you want to go that route. But I'm with you. I think that thus far, in fact, you know, with the medtech I haven't gone on an arc for that. It's always been streamlined and kind of within it, because anytime it's been there, it's been within, you know, a pretty hard campaign or a deep plot, I guess I should say, to where, like, I don't want to pull on that arc just yet. I'm allowing her to make it. She's playing a medtech Ariel in our weekly ongoing, and then continue on with the plot at hand. But like I said, that's not to say that I don't love the idea of setting off on these side arcs just to source a little bit of material or something if you want to, you know? I think that can be fun.
I do love the reaction players have when you say you can't do something, or it's difficult to do something. You expect them to go, oh, that's, you know, you tell people they can't have something, usually they're like, oh, God, that's annoying. But in a role-playing game, you know, that's the beginning of a story. Like,
right.
You guys out of town, you're going to have to go somewhere else. Like, oh, okay. Cool, where can I go? And you can see the light bulb turn on when they realize that they have to actually kind of think outside the box and stuff. That can be really cool.
Because you're not saying can't, really. You're saying can't, but you're like, you know, you gotta be a creative thinker here, you know, because there's no definitive like no or yes or whatever. It's supposed to be kind of like the real world. You're role playing, and it should be just as dynamic. So I love that that too. You know, like when something's not just so easy in face value as the player expects. Like, oh, I just want to do that and get that done. Okay, cool. Back over here. Well, wait now. That didn't go down that smooth. You know, this little wrench in the works. Now you got to think a little. And I think that's fun.
Yeah, so I have this principle. So everyone's heard of yes and from the idea of improv. You say yes, and then you go and you build on top. But also there's I think there's a no but, which is just as useful. You can say, can I get this? No. But if you do this, you might be able to. And I think that's a really good way of keeping play open and keeping it flowing.
I love that. And that's true, too. Let me interject right there. Not that this is specific to MedTech, but general tip in role-playing, because you kind of tapped into that, is like, yeah, sometimes you kind of want to give a little bit of direction. You know, you want that full open world, full player agency by all means. But sometimes you might want to give that little but. Because if you just say no, maybe at face value, a player might not think into that and go, ah, shit, that sucks. Okay, moving on. And you don't want him to do that. You want him to, yeah, it's a no, but I'm not saying no, really. I'm saying, let's think about this. Let's be creative, you know? And I think that's where it's important. That but is awesome.
Yeah. You know? It's a principle I live by. This is the end of the MedTech specific LIFEPATH stuff. But I just want to, like, without going too much to tangent, I think it raises an interesting question. I think that a lot of the stuff that we do online for kind of public consumption it's kind of entertainment focused. It's often very narratively driven, right? It's often very kind of cinematic, and it follows that kind of structure. And I think it skews that way just kind of out of necessity. But that's not to say that, you know, these games, which are sandbox games, I think lend themselves really, really super well to Red. But you're probably not going to see that many sandbox games as kind of online public examples. So don't, you know, if you want to run a sandbox game and you want to track all the supplies and stuff, do it. It's a really fun way to play, and don't take the fact that maybe not that many people are doing it online as a signal that it's not a legitimate way to play, because it totally is.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I do that with ammo too. You know, I won't track or be such a, you know, I don't know, stickler for that or be on it, but I do tell my players, like, as you do it, you know, just make your mark on bullets you're doing. When you know you need to reload, just let me know as the GM. That way I'm not tracking those specific numbers. I feel it's that way with the supplies too. Like, as a GM, and like you said, streaming, you just want to flow, be more theatrical and more for the stream and for the fans and viewers and people trying to enjoy it. But that, like you said, that's not to say that that's not an avid part of the role playing. You know, the game itself. You know, it's fun to track that shit and to go on those side arcs and make it have that depth and the reality of that shit. You know, it feels more immersive to me. Like when you feel like you're running out of things here and here, and you've got to resupply. It's not magical. Nothing is just appearing in there, and you just keep going. You know, you feel the pressure that way, and I like that. But yeah, with the live stream, sometimes you streamline that shit. And you just kind of brush over some of those little things because it can slow things down and clog up the system, so to speak. You know, when you're streaming. But yeah, we hit the life path. Let's dive into, and let me say to the chat, if anybody has any ideas they want to interject about something that we covered already, go ahead and do it. We have no problem backtracking and re-talking about something or whatever if you have something creative to say or a question. But we are going to move forward right here from life path to different archetypes. Maybe some examples from movies, TV shows, things like that, but just basically different ways you can play a medtech. Like when I talk about Trauma Team, what about REO Meatwagon? That's something to think about. Maybe instead of the typical, like everybody knows Trauma Team, maybe you want to be a medtech and you work for the underdog. You work for the one that everyone laughs at, or people don't recognize the brand or something. I don't know. Or you're an ambulance chaser. There can be a weird way to play a medtech. The only other thing I wanted to mention. One of my favorite examples in recent times in film and stuff, and I've been talking about it online. We have that huge extensive list on the Cyberpunk Uncensored group. It's up to like 100 and something titles of movies and series, all cyberpunk based. But one of my more recent favorite ones is Hotel Artemis. I don't know if anyone has seen that, but Jodie Foster plays a nurse, and this hospital is basically in a combat zone, and it's very fucking cyberpunk. If you haven't seen it, Hotel Artemis, it's on Amazon Prime, I believe.
For it looking cool, so yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, definitely look that up. It's awesome. She plays medtech, and it's just like a Ripper Doc spot. It feels like Combat Zone. Oh, Netflix. It's on Netflix too. Renegade.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Sweet.
Great. Yeah, I saw it on Amazon.
Netflix in Oz. Yeah.
Yeah, check that out. Hotel Artemis. But that's the one. That's the main one I wanted to mention because to me, that film screams cyberpunk, and she is a Ripper Doc. It is just so perfect, and the way they play it, her security, the gate, the people that visit. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to give away the movie. It's great, but wow, watch it if you like medtechs and cyberpunk. Holy shit, that's a great movie.
I think you said Ripper Doc a couple of times. I think that's a great place to start. I think the Ripper Doc is an archetype that people really, really know from cyberpunk, right? So one big element of cyberpunk is your cybernetic implants. It's this transhumanism. It's a thing that people are really excited about, whether they have a pop-up shield or a tech scanner, whether they have a lie detector in their head or chipware that gives them skill points or whatever. There's so many cool things to do with implants and stuff. And if you build a Ripper Doc, then you are at the pulse of that kind of trade in the city. Both sourcing stuff, installing it, getting it for yourself and stuff like that. And I don't think it's any coincidence that one of the first people you meet in the 2077 game is Vic, the Ripper Doc, right? And they give you some implants, a new eye, and a dermal grip, right? Because that is the hallmark of cyberpunk. This man and machine meshing. And I think a lot of people will want to be there. They want to be the person who handles that stuff. But there's no one size fits all in terms of Ripper Docs. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier fingers. So you got Vic on one hand, who his clinic's in a basement, but he's pretty professional. And then you go visit Fingers' clinic later on, and he's this strung out guy in fishnets, and his place looks like a bordello. There's Ripper Docs and there's Ripper Docs.
Yeah, exactly. No, even within the title itself, there's just so many ways you can play it. And one of the things I like to bring up too, like within that is, straight or corrupt. That's the other thing too, because, you have these options if you're working for a fixer, a gang, a solo, nomad and fixer, maybe a corporation, maybe you're with Trauma Team, maybe you're with REO Meatwagon. Let's not knock those guys. We'll mention them again. But regardless of how you do that,
we're being paid by them.
Yeah, they're an official sponsor of Cyberpunk Uncensored. But no, I think it's interesting to kind of put a twist on it if you're a player. You can play it straight, or you can play it corrupt, and I think that's kind of interesting. I don't see a lot of players do that. I kind of talked about that on my tech deep dive a little, just kind of a twist way to play that tech, and I'm going to say it here with the med tech as well. Like, think about the fact that as a med tech, you can fix people, but you can also maybe corrupt that. Maybe you're healing someone, but you're also injecting them with some designer plague or something that then you're going to extort them for a cure. Maybe there's a corp that you're working with that you're going to sell that information or whatever you're doing with them to help as a medtech to their competitor. There's always that aspect in Cyberpunk that I think as a player, you expect it from NPCs, but you don't put it on yourself as much. And I think that's a fun dynamic. You don't always have to be good or bad. You can kind of be this dynamic, twisted, like multi-level thinker that's just as fucking, I don't want to say paranoid, I don't know the word, but just as crazy as Cyberpunk should be. I don't know if that's the right way to word it, but you know what I mean? Like, it's dark dystopian
Someone who
future.
Has a convoluted set of morals, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Compromised in some way. Rue makes a good point here in the chat about a medical professional who goes and scabs spare parts from bodies, right? Implants and stuff. And funnily enough, that there are rules in the trauma team section of Red about what happens when you hack off bits of cyberware. You have to repair it afterwards, but they have considered that this is something that people will want to go and do. That they will hack off bits of people and sell them on or repurpose them for their community, say. And that's another thing, right? It's not black and white. Maybe you go in battlefields and you in the combat zone, you hack people's arms and limbs off. You're a terrible person. But what if you're doing that for your underserved community, these people who need therapeutic cyberware?
That's great. The Robin Hood of cyberware.
Exactly, right? And as you say, like, are you corrupt or are you straight? It can be,
both.
It can be great as a GM. Yeah, it can be both. It can be great as a GM to see push players and ask them questions about how far they will go for certain things, and you just push it and push it and push it and see how corrupt they become in service of their ideals, right? And I think, people's lives are on the line when you're a medtech, so it can be a really emotional hook for you to kind of introduce those questions for a medtech.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I see Vlad in the chat. Whatever happened to the Hippocratic Oath? Just kidding. Yeah, I think that ended after 2020. I think after the Fourth Corporate War, maybe. Right. I don't know. Somewhere in there. Maybe in 1988, actually, when Cyberpunk first that was done. But no, the other thing too.
Well, like this idea of a formally trained doctor, right? Maybe you started with a corporation. Maybe that's how you got your training. You've got lots of points in education, deduction, and you're a surgeon or something, and you started out as like a properly trained doctor, like you'd see today, and then maybe now you're an edgerunner because you got disillusioned with the corporation you worked for, or they screwed you over or something.
Oh, yeah.
That idea of this idea of a professional. You don't have to just be like a self-taught, street doctor. You can come from a different kind of area and move that way. It's another cool archetype to use.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think it's also kind of cool, the whole pharmaceutical aspect. Like, whether you're as a med tech, if you're going to really push the surgery side, the pharmaceutical cryotank side, which is still under that same medical within that rollability. Again, not going to get into the crunch of the details. Check out that crash course. It's on our Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube if you want to learn about those details. But within those pharmaceuticals, without getting into exactly how they work, I think it's interesting that can also kind of determine the angle of the type of med tech you are. Like, for instance, say you're a med tech in an edge runner team, any one of these, but just for the sake of this conversation, you're in a typical edge runner team with like solo, nomad, netrunner, whatever, you know what I mean? And you're the med tech. Are you the med tech that like has no fucking weapons and you're like, I don't believe in hurting or killing people, I just want to heal, and I make speed heals, and I'm all about my surgery and paramedic skills, and I'm a healer, in and out, top to bottom, I'm all about that? Or are you more into like, I'm helping my combat teams, like, and I'm going to get into recommended stats and skills, and you can play this anyway, but my point here with pharmaceuticals are, instead of my speed heal and looking at those skills and stats, maybe you're more into the combat side, and you're like, I make my non-addictive stims and my things, so all my rest of my team can all increase their reflex or whatever, or get, you know what I mean, be more combat heavy or whatever. So I think that's interesting
maybe
too.
You're an obsessive, and you love that drug that means you don't have to sleep for a day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. You get the point. Like, I think within the pharmaceuticals, it's almost like within all the options there are paths you can take to be a different type of med tech, depending on how you want to play that out,
that's one of my favorite things about medtech is that when you take your say 4 ranks at creation, there's a whole bunch of options inside those, which you can toy with. I really like this idea of the pharmaceutical based medtech as well. There's a lot of cool archetypes with crazy drugs and lots of cool, very cyberpunk stories and characters that are all to do with, you know, better living through chemistry. He's more of a media type, but, you know, Spider Jerusalem, all about his crazy medical drugs and stuff, you know, altered states and all that kind of thing. And obviously there's a whole bunch of street drugs as well available in Red, and they're not covered by pharmaceutical, but it doesn't mean you can't integrate them into your character. Give yourself chemistry, and then, you know, actually make black lace, make blue glass, all this other stuff, you know, and that ties into this idea of how corrupt are you? Are you making scratch selling street drugs so you can buy medical supplies to help people, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think you know, we can dive into the recommended stats and skills, because we're already kind of crossing over into that, and I think it's important to kind of dive into that. I mean, because we know all the different archetypes, and like we kind of discussed there with the straight or corrupt, and what was that?
There is kind of one that I think is worth mentioning, is like maybe like an ex-army medic or something, like a veteran who's come from the armed forces, maybe, you know, Southbound Wars a long time ago, or more recently corporate wars or something, and maybe you were trained in the military and you have that kind of you have that kind of disciplined mindset, and like maybe you're trying to kind of integrate into civilian life. That's another kind of cool archetype. You can take the kind of trauma medic down as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. And also, you know, that can also lean into some potential multi-classing depending on where you're starting with your GM. If, you know, you're allowed to kind of backstory some of that, if it's an interesting campaign you're starting, or something you work towards. I think that's a really cool thing. For me with multi-classing, I'm always like, fuck, regardless of what I'm doing for combat style things, it's always like one of the techs, whether tech, med tech, or netrunner, like those are always to me like the other things you want in your hand if you're also combative with like a low number of teammates and shit, and you're all trying to multi-class, multitask things, you know. But no, I think that's a great one to mention.
Want to have a look at some skills and stats?
Yeah. Let's dive into recommended stats and skills. And again, anyone in chat, feel free, you know, if you want to comment on something we already covered, we have no problem backtracking. After we kind of go over recommended stats and skills, we'll dive into chat if you have any specific questions, and we'll kind of take, you know, end it right about there. But yeah, what do you think as far as stats? I mean, obviously tech, you know, that's going to be the first.
Tech is going to be a big one, right?
Yeah, exactly. For me, other than tech, I'll just knock mine out quick and then explain how you feel about it all. But obviously tech number one being a med tech, you know, I mentioned in the tech deep dive, I'll mention it in the med tech deep dive here. I think there's a couple roles where I'll actually recommend luck, and med tech is it, tech is it. I think the tech things are very more useful with that luck shit, because they always tend to be saving the day. You know, they're either healing a teammate that's about to die, or like like when I mentioned in tech, you know, they're the ones picking the lock or fixing the thing or whatever if the netrunner can't hack. So I feel with med tech it's that same vibe. They're one of those roles. Luck could be very important. Other than that, I think will is a great one because of your healing aspect and just the humanity side of things you do. But how do you feel about that?
Things you see as well.
Oh, great point. Because that is a part of Cyberpunk Red. You're not just losing humanity points from cyberware. You can also be psychologically fucked up from things you see and experience, you know? But what do you think about recommended stats for medtech?
So I think technical is going to be, obviously, is an easy pick for your number one stat. It covers all the things like medical tech skill, which is derived from where you put your specializations, your cyber tech, which if you're going to be a Ripper doc, it's going to be really important, and all that sort of thing. Electronics and stuff, if you want to repair your own kind of gear that you carry around, there's always going to be a big one. Int is really good because of things like education,
deduction,
and of things like deduction. Deduction's really good if you're playing like a particular kind of diagnostic doctor. They can be really good to do complicated diagnosis, both on like cyberware malfunctions and like medical mysteries, that sort of thing.
I like
designer plagues and stuff. Having deductions really handy for that sort of thing. they mention, I think, in the skills list where under deduction, medical diagnosis. So that's really key. Someone's saying Dex for brawling, so you can keep your patients down. It's great, but
That's
it makes
kind
me
of
think
fun,
of,
yeah.
like having a high body, so you can like carry people off the battlefield. You can actually
That's
just like
true.
put people over your shoulder and like just carry them away. So that's really good too. A lot of the stuff. I think there's also that there's room for cool and stuff. You might have people being, um, uh, your patients might all not be completely compliant.
That's true. They're in pain. They're not listening.
That's right.
You're trying to
You
fix
might
them
need
and they're freaking out or something.
Similar with things like empathy as well. You might, especially if you're going down the idea of being like a therapeutic doctor, whether it's cyber psychotherapy or just psychiatry in general for the trauma that people suffer, you're going to need a ton of empathy to treat people in that way and to understand what their problems are and help them in a meaningful way. And then we were talking about a lot of stuff to do with how you get your supplies. Maybe you're going to need cool and empathy to persuade people to give you a discount or tell you where you can get stuff or do a good trade with you. So there's definitely room for secondary stats options for sure.
And that's a great point too, like with that whole persuasion thing and being able to have read people their what is it this conversation, human what's the word, the skill I'm looking for, my mind just
human perception.
Yeah, there's all those things that can come into play, because let's not forget, a med tech, just like a tech, there's a few of these roles where you rely on supplies to do what you need to do, and like Phil just said, you might have to buy those supplies or get them and negotiate the price or things like that. So you are one of those roles that you're relying on that. Not a lot of the other roles do that other than tech and med tech, really. Like a net runner doesn't have to constantly like re-up supplies to net run, and other than bullets
can get their programs
for a
destroyed.
solo. No, I know. Other than what they're specifically using to do that run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like a med tech, I don't know. I feel like just like a tech, it's like it's all about that. There's almost nothing that they can do without having to use a supply or do it or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like a program can get destroyed, but it's not guaranteed to get destroyed. Whereas a med tech, when they do their thing, it's guaranteed that you're using those supplies. So like
you're using up a cryocharge or
so it's important. So I think so it's a good point you made about being able to negotiate and shit like that. It's important.
Someone points out that move is very good if you're a combat focused crew.
Like you said, body. I didn't think of that, but like you said, carrying, being able to have good body, so you can just pick up the unconscious body and take them off the battlefield. But that too, a good move, so you can get the hell out of the battlefield before you get shot.
Or get to the person before they bleed out.
Yeah.
They've taken a sniper post and then take a bullet, and you've got to go up 10 flights of stairs to get to them.
Exactly.
You'll want move.
And back to I didn't see who was mentioning Dex, but all jokes aside, you say Dex or reflex, be able to choke out a patient and toss them in the cryo tank or whatever. We did say like that might come into play if patients are being kind of crazy or unruly or dealing with a fucked up situation and whatever. But it's like sorry, that froze on me a second.
You're all good to me, yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I think it also matters if you're gonna do a little bit of combat stuff, because let's not forget, in Cyberpunk it doesn't matter what role you do, you're probably going to engage in some combat no matter what. Even a net runner, you're in meat space while you're in the net. A med tech, even when you're trying to heal somebody, they're still fighting around you, and you're trying to get the guy off the battlefield or whatever. It's still Cyberpunk. Even just going to get your supplies, you might get jumped by a booster gang or ripped off by the guy you're buying it from, or crossed by the fixer for more money. It's Cyberpunk. So I always say... What was that?
Sorry, and if you're a trauma team medic, the person who put a bullet in your patient is still there.
Exactly.
Firing at your patient.
So I feel like no matter what role in Cyberpunk, I can always say, focus on that tech, that will, that intelligence, whatever that makes sense to that role, right? But any role in Cyberpunk can also have dex and reflex, or like body, or I don't know, something to help them when it comes to combat. Whether it's you can take more hits, you can give more hits, you can dodge more hits, whatever it is. I feel like every role could have some type of angling to help them with combat.
Yeah. Even if it's just to survive it, as you say.
Yeah, just being able to dodge. I'm really good at evading. It's helpful. It's Cyberpunk. There's gonna be battles, but yeah, I think
sure.
I think those are kind of the best skills. And back to the intellect thing, like I mentioned earlier, but I do think deduction is important. I love when GMs incorporate deduction because it's very diverse. It can be used in so many different ways, but especially with the medical sort of thing, it can kind of help you figure out what needs to be done, or, to save a patient or someone.
Not to push my own stuff, but I did. So I started off the Out on a Limb campaign with a sort of a cyber tech crisis where people were having malfunctions, and when I designed that set piece and that encounter, I had deduction rolls built in. Nice. And if you met this deduction, you would get these clues. If you met this deduction, you would get these clues. So it's a really cool thing to kind of pre-plan as a GM. It's like if deduction is used, these are the pieces of the narrative or the mystery that I can give out, and that can be really, really handy. So if you're building deduction and your GM works that way, it can be really valuable points.
100%.
But in terms of skills, I think if you're building a Ripperdoc, you're going to need to dump points in your cyber tech. Everyone's going to want. A lot of people are going to want to take paramedic. It's another kind of obvious one, but not completely necessary. Maybe you don't. You just do surgery. Maybe you aren't a paramedic. You don't go out on the battlefield. You rely on having patients on the table in front of you, and your points are spent elsewhere. That's totally a thing you can do. And then people have mentioned in the chat already biology and chemistry, which are in your science under the science banner. You can do all sorts of things with that, whether it's researching viruses, bacteria, making new drugs or existing drugs. Excuse me. Oh dear. And we've mentioned a whole bunch of persuasion skills and what Vlad in the chat is calling good bedside manner, right?
Yeah.
That can fall under all these empathy skills and stuff like that. Hey, if you are running a solo clinic, you might want business, and if you get your supplies from the back door, you might want bribery. You might want library search if you don't have education, or vice versa. There are loads of
even bureaucracy could be worked in, like if you're dealing with these hospitals or medical centers, to see kind of, I don't know, the ways to grease palms and work your way in to get the supplies you need. So there's all kind of creative ways you can use these skills. I love Quincy too. I think when we were talking about having some of the combat skills or whatever, but kill then revive. That can be powerful, actually. Like that's one of those corrupt things I was talking about. Like, are you, honest upfront medtech, or maybe you're a little corrupt. Maybe you do things to kind of leverage power and money and things like that. Killing just to revive, and then hold them under in the palm of your fucking hand. Yeah.
Yeah, you take out an exec, and then they wake up in your clinic, and you're like, well, I could replace your arms.
Yeah, and then what was that? Oh yeah, and Rue Shady, and you get your friend Fixer to help you out and scout the market for some bargains. Remember, everyone operates under barter and loan. If you have a big enough gun, yeah, exactly. If your gun is big enough, but yeah, that's my point. Like I feel like no matter what, it's still Cyberpunk. You know what I mean? So like even if things are cut and dry and you think it's black and white and perfect, whatever, like at any moment, anything can fucking change at the drop of a hat because it is Cyberpunk and corrupt, and it's all about barter and loan, and especially in the time of Red where things aren't just readily available, like we said. It all does come down to money, hookups, and guns.
Yeah, not everyone can get you stuff for eddies. Sometimes you have to do favors.
Yeah.
And then having a nice diverse skill set can really help you there. And there are tons of extra stuff you can drop in for flavor, like depending on where you think your character grew up or where they've run in the past. Gamble is a great flavor skill that doesn't really depend on any particular thing. Acting can be really great if you are sort of duplicitous and you run in different circles, both kind of corporate and edgerunner or gang circles. Having an acting skills can really help you negotiate the different layers of social life in Night City. There's totally room for all sorts of kind of flavor choices for your skills, which is, I think, one of the reasons the the skill set is so diverse, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're talking about hauling people off the battlefield. If that's your job, make sure you take athletics. You don't want to like drop the person halfway across the parking lot under fire.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to those skills too, like they are, you know, the nuances within them, you know, just, you know, the diversity and the way that you can use them really comes down to with, you know, how good you can, you know, what level of creative thinker are you, you know, whether GM or player, if you can think of angles to use these skills, you know, like a lot of these skills aren't just one sentence, this is exactly what you use it for. It kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of agency within them, you know.
I just had a great thought now, right? As we're chatting and I'm looking through the skills, you take criminology and you're more of like a coroner, forensic pathologist kind of forensic kind of type, where you do like ballistics on people's bodies, or like
I love the coroner idea,
like that.
I love that coroner
so cool,
idea.
Right? I just thought of it now, just looking through.
Yeah, I've never seen that or thought of that till you just said it. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, because that can lead to like the crime solving shit, you know, like you're the guy that's inspecting the bodies and figuring out how the fuck they died and in what corrupt way versus what the report says they died, you know.
And they always make great characters in TV. The coroner's always like a bit wacky.
Why are they always eating?
That's right.
Right?
It's to
like,
show they don't give a shit.
It's like every movie, every TV show, they always have the fucking coroner eating and drinking, like, oh, I've been here so long, I don't even care. You know, every time, every fucking time.
We'd love to have that. It's like you subvert it and you have it, and like someone's in your morgue or whatever, they're eating, and you're like, what the hell are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Stop eating.
So messed up. But yeah, I think we covered everything. I mean, if there's any last minute questions from chat, plug them in there. We're watching chat. You know, we love you guys being part of it, of all of our streams.
As a little optimization, I would recommend not taking both first aid and paramedic. I feel like pretty much everything that first aid does can be covered by paramedic role. So save yourself a few points there, and if you're taking points in paramedic, maybe don't take so many in first aid beyond the first two.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that as well, because once you have that, you don't need it.
There's one of those few cases where there's a decent amount of overlap. And paramedic is sort of an extension of first aid.
Yeah. Paramedic can do anything first aid can do, and then some. So if you have that, you don't need first aid. You're 100% right. So that is a great point to make as a player. If you're a med tech, hell yeah, you know, you get those 2 points in first aid, but if you're going to invest points after that, focus on paramedic over first aid, most definitely. Great point to make.
Quincy's saying like how funny it would be to go to a med tech and find out they're actually a veterinarian.
but fuck it, I can do it. I can do it.
Don't worry about it. I got it. I worked on racehorses. It's pretty much the same thing.
Same thing. How would you handle sequels from botched attempt at reanimation before succeeding?
Okay. Not sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow that. That's a tricky question there, Quincy. I think you broke my brain.
Dead is dead. Dead is dead in Cyberpunk. We don't reanimate, folks. Do we?
Yeah, you can't.
That I know of.
Yeah, handle sequel. I'm confused. Quincy, you broke my brain with that question, man.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And generally, if you fail a roll, you need to change the circumstances to repeat said roll.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need some luck, or you need a complementary skill. So if you fail a surgery, you might need to go do some reading, some education, a library search to look up that particular operation, or maybe have someone with good eyes do a perception check to guide you or something like that. It's a good way of altering a role that you've failed. You have to change the circumstances in some way.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't just keep
brain damage and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right, bringing people back from really, really debilitating injuries like brain damage. I think you'd have to be very careful about how you handle that sort of thing. Medical science in Cyberpunk isn't magic per se. I wonder if speed heal could repair some brain injuries, but maybe you have lasting consequences. Maybe it has some ongoing negatives for a while until you can get over it. You can have some sort of surgery or therapy maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's very GM heavy on that side. Like maybe it involves, the psychiatrist side of things to help beyond the physical. Maybe it involves, like you said, a certain skill, accenting the main skill or role ability, because it involves brain damage that goes beyond just the physical, because it involves your brain. I think it's very GM heavy there. You can also have fun with it, like brain damages could also come with weird things, like now you can no longer turn left, or you forgot the number 3, you no longer see the color purple. Like weird things happen when you have brain damage. So I think
very odd things can happen. Alien hand syndrome, that sort of thing. Just do your research, make sure you portray that kind of thing sensitively, and you kind of hit the tone that your players are expecting of you. And check in, maybe they have someone in their life who has an acquired brain injury or something like that. So you should always be sensitive to that sort of thing.
Yeah, anytime with medical stuff, most definitely. That's why it's, session zeros are always important. But yeah, you don't cover everything there. So I think that's a great point Phil made. Yeah, when you start dabbling in some of this medical stuff, it can get touchy. So yeah, you definitely want to be tactful, when you hit some of these subjects. And maybe if you're going to go down a route that involves, major health issues or mental issues like that, maybe just double check with the players before you get in there. That is a good point to make.
Yeah. We did our last roundtable was on safe play. So if you want a bit more of a discussion about how to handle that stuff in the run up and during a campaign, you can check that out.
Yeah, check out the GM roundtable on the Cyberpunk Uncensored YouTube. And yeah, we did a whole episode talking about safe play, session 0, all that good stuff. But yeah, I think give them that condition that makes them is having the same face. No, don't do that. Give them the condition that makes them see everyone having the same face. So they have like what is it, facial blindness, or what is it called?
Yes, face blindness. Yeah, there's conditions that mean your vision aren't affected, but you can't recognize objects anymore. Is another one that can happen. Yeah. And you literally have to piece together clues from the shapes of things you see to learn what objects are. That's interesting. But yeah, these things require a bit of research to roleplay effectively.
Yeah,
I feel like.
I love the ideas. I think they can cause for like some deep plots and twists, and you can do fun things with that as a GM, and make a player now can't do that, or you're thinking like this, and they got to figure it out, like you said, piece things together. But again, like
medical mysteries,
like Phil said earlier, when you start dabbling in medical stuff and mental illness and things, like it can get a little close to home with people, can get touchy, and not just the players, but people watching too. So you do want to be kind of careful with some real life big time issues like that. It can be fucked up. Yeah, start with a temporary mental condition to feel out the player. That's not a bad idea too. Like if you don't have time.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I would say don't feel out your players. I would say be upfront with what
I think.
You're going to include.
Yeah, I think what he's saying there though is like if you're in the moment of it, maybe don't dive into it. If you don't have time to talk and really fill it out in a session 0, or to recap before, like, hey, this is kind of the direction we're going. I have this going. I just want to make sure everyone's cool with this and that. Like, if you don't have that time, you're in it. Full player agency draws you over here, and it's like, fuck, okay, well, I guess I'm dealing with this now, and like, oh, this makes sense. Yeah, maybe if it's involving some of that mental illnesses, big medical issues, don't dive right into it. If you didn't have time to talk to them, maybe you just lightly mention an idea of that, gauge the reaction, or maybe you just stay on that light mention and you don't go deep on it all until you get a chance to talk to everybody. Whatever you do, I think definitely it's important to play it safe. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you clarifying here, it's about a certain fear that a character has. That's something that can be dealt with. Everyone kind of understands having a particular phobia or a fear or a hang-up. And you can have things like concussions, which don't necessarily have long-lasting impact, but might have a temporary impact that you can then get over as a character. But it's a way of feeling out how you deal with mental disturbances like that.
That's true.
As we've said, there's a potential to explore the trauma and the mental aspect of living in this dark future, this dangerous, gritty future that everything's uncertain, and it's a really great angle to play. It certainly is a super great angle to play, but just needs that sensitivity.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think we did pretty good on a medtech deep dive here. Pay attention to your PCs. If they casually mention they have bipolar disorder, talk to them about what they are okay with. Yeah, that's a good idea. No, most definitely. I think that's why it's important, that whole session 0. And like Phil brought up a great point. Check out that GM roundtable we just had last month. We talk about all that sort of stuff. But yeah. You now can hear the voice of God. Just kidding. Looks like your internal recording implant is now receiving some radio bandwidths, and specifically the pirate radio your character hates. That's funny. So see, you can have a lighthearted angle on that and not touch too serious on true mental illness. Like, yeah, you think it's a voice or mental illness, but really actually it's a malfunctioning thing, and now you're getting this shitty pirate radio station blaring in your head 24/7. Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 girl says, "Hey, Cyberpunk Uncensored. Hey, back at you." Thanks for tuning in.
There's a question. This question I want to highlight here, which is when is Phil going to guest play on a one shot?
Oh yeah, I saw Renegade put that there. Yeah, Renegade. He's in. That's our monthly ongoing one shot where we had Sprocket's origin story. Yeah, you have to come play sometime.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Which is why I highlighted that.
Oh yeah.
I love to be a player playing in John's game. As I said, so. While we kind of wrap up, I have playing a medtech at the moment who's a bit of different. She's a 72-year-old grandma of one of the other characters, and she's sort of gotten into medical stuff later in life, where she's just like, she's done everything, and now she just wants to help out, right? So she has a bunch of other combat skills. She can fire a shotgun, that sort of thing. And she's just a bit of everything. She's got a bit of surgery. She's got a bit of cryo systems and pharmaceuticals. So she's a really distributed kind of like, I've lived a storied life. And this is just the latest thing that I'm getting into at the moment is patching people up. So that's where I'm going with her. I really enjoy being a no nonsense grandma healer. That's been really
I think
good.
It's fun too that you decided to make a character that's in her 70s or whatever. Really low body stat.
Body 4.
Yeah, super low body stat, elderly, senior citizen, but in it, I think that's really fun. I love when, players come up with characters with just interesting personality quirks or traits or things about them that just make them like extremely interesting. Not just like everyone's diverse, everyone's interesting, but going like that extreme with it. That's a lot of fun. That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And if you take enough pharmaceuticals, you can still get out there in combat at 72 years old,
Hell yeah.
She's lived a life.
Just picture that though, like how crazy looking that would be. You're walking on Night City and you're fighting, and like there's a 72-year-old woman coming out with like a shotgun and shit. Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hair, old nomad jacket and scrubs underneath. So yeah.
But yeah, we got to get you. I like Renegade's suggestion, and we'll talk sometime here. I know we're all busy. We all have I've got multiple series and gameplays and things I'm doing. You're running numerous games and now playing, plus with the RTG Sirenscape ongoing and stuff. But let's talk sometime after this, and we'll try to work it out. Obviously won't be tomorrow or that soon, but maybe sometime in the near future. Let's work that out and get you at least coming in one of the one shots or the ongoing something. At least to come make a cameo, bring a character over or make a new one, whatever. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And also I know you guys cycle into different games and roll to cast. If you're fully diving back into Cyberpunk Red, keep me in mind to come and rock a player or an NPC.
Sure, man.
That's something I'm trying to trade with other GMs too. Me and Wandering DM did a little trade. But even just like a little NPC thing I think would be fun. If all of us GMs, we just cross over a little once in a while, like just spot in, play an NPC, give a mission, fuck with my players, dip out. I don't know, just fun shit like that I think would be interesting.
Well, we're loving continuing the story of Heaven at the moment. That's something I want to keep doing, is have it be a central hub and a kind of ongoing story for these characters we've started. So I'm definitely planning to continue that story even after John's wraps up. So I'm definitely hook you up with a guest spot. It'd be super awesome. I love the community that's growing, is rapidly expanding right now. RTG are dropping these amazing resources and expansions and DLCs. They're talking about Black Chrome already. Black Chrome, I'm sure, is going to have tons of stuff for the medtech, man. It's going to have, you can already have we haven't even touched on like gear and stuff today in the deep dive, whether you have a medical scanner, whether you have like micro optics to help you with surgery, stuff like that. if you're an ambulance chaser where you have a radio in your head, so
that's so true. Police scanner and shit.
You and your boys on the meat wagon can get there before anyone else can. There's tons of good stuff there, and I'm sure Black Chrome will have arm surgery or like extra surgery bots for your shoulders or whatever, or drones that you can do remote surgery with. That'd be rad.
Oh yeah.
And there's another one as well they announced, their recent thing. I can't remember what the other book
Rust Chrome.
Rust Chrome, yeah.
Yeah, they're coming out with a Rust Chrome. I think it's going to be more about transport, more about nomads and sourcing things in transport. And then they also mentioned the whole high riders book.
High riders and stuff.
They're doing that as well.
Yeah. So it's just a great time to be getting into the stuff.
And
loads of games out there for you to watch and play. Rob's games are awesome and really great about welcoming people from all over the community to play in little pieces. John's doing some awesome stuff, some great resource videos as well. So just a good time to be playing.
Yeah, when we're speaking of resources, I want to mention not just Cyberpunk Uncensored on YouTube. For Cyberpunk Red, I think we have probably the most tutorial and crash course videos of any other Cyberpunk Red resource, as well as more gameplay videos than any other resource specifically to Cyberpunk Red. If you look, it's not just me, but like Phil just said, we showcase other GMs as well as 2020 gameplay even from some of our GMs under the Cyberpunk Uncensored brand. But when it comes to resources, I almost forgot to mention, today officially we launched our Scream Sheet publication. So now, if you go to cyberpunkuncensored.com, you're going to see a bunch of resources. We have fillable character sheets, NPC sheets, Cyberdeck sheets, program sheets, all fillable, the GM report card. I mean, there's like 50 different resource things. I'm forgetting all of them, whatever. You'll see them. Go there, cyberpunkuncensored.com. But we just started the whole Scream Sheet project. So now we're producing these Scream Sheets based under the IMG brand, which is a company, a neocorp I created in my one-shot ongoing. It's the Indie Media Group. They're basically the main neocorp competitor to N54. They're a little bit corrupt if you watch the one-shot, but they do what they do. But that's what these one-shots are kind of coming from. We have submissions from GMs and people, so players, GMs out there, go to the site, check out the Scream Sheet page. You'll see the submission, the whole process. You'll see the link to all the Scream Sheets that we have available now. There's a couple of them already there. There's a novelty David Noir one of the players in our ongoing monthly one-shots, and then the official first issue. And we're going to be kicking those out regularly.
I have some ideas. Expect to see some stuff out of me.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Hell yeah. Yeah, and also GMs out there too, especially like streaming GMs and such. Like if you have specific campaigns you've mapped out upcoming, and you want to toss us some of those little articles or info, we can throw together one of these official IMG Scream Sheets for you, and you can, we'll put it out publicly. It'll get some exposure for what you're doing and for the general lore that you're creating, but then you can pull that into your game and give it to your players and have it official. I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, and PWB is the one of our main partners. They're heading it up here in chat. Pat, who also goes by Ferris Bueller in the Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord. So, yeah, everyone check that out. Just wanted to mention that.
Kira says that they have their medtech is built with Internal Agent and Chiron, which is the in-eye display linked to their team's biomonitors, so they can track vitals in real time on the battlefield. Very cool build with the Cybertech there. Great lateral thinking of like how to integrate your role with your Cybertech choices.
Oh, and that's such a great thing too, because think of how many times you play and if, like you said, the solo's on the roof, like Kira just said, and maybe the team's over here breaking in, and something happens, and you're like, well, would they know that? Well, yeah, no, I would message that team. Oh, I say that to the agent. Oh, I overheard that, and like right there, you just kind of, I don't know, solve that problem and streamline in the sense that all the vitals are coming into your Chiron, and you can easily just tell immediately, like, whoa, the solo on the roof just got injured. Someone get up there, stat. What a great
your
way
internal agent saying, I'm afraid your solo. I don't know why all my agents are British, but I just think of them as butlers. But
I do too. That's funny. I like that you do that.
I make my players characterize them as much as possible as well, which is always really good fun. But yeah, the idea of a British butler telling you your solo's just taken one in the neck is just amazing to me.
Pardon me, sir. Yeah, and
he appears to be bleeding everywhere.
Yeah, it's so proper with the crazy gore talk, It's funny. Yeah, and my beautiful wife, Val Mulligan, who plays Raven, said, "Great information. Back to work. Bye, everyone." Yeah, get back to work. Don't get fired. You're getting in this, and you should be working. What
Watching
the hell?
On the job.
Does
anyone have any more like specific questions?
Yeah, any other questions? Get them in now while we're here. We're wrapping this up. And yeah, PWB saying Ferris Bueller. There you can see the name. Look them up. Anybody interested in joining our Scream Sheet project? Whether you want to contribute fake ads, news stories, articles, you have a request, you need something, whatever. Cyberpunk Uncensored Discord. Look for myself or Ferris Bueller. He's leading up that project. And then also,
I know we're not talking media today, but the media landscape's really interesting in Red, so it's a really cool place to get in if you just want to do lore stuff.
Exactly. And then I do want to mention to everybody too. I know we talked about different ways that you can find all my resources, Cyberpunk Uncensored, all the things I have going on, obviously. And then Phil with Roll to Cast and Baby Beard Media and all the gameplay and things that they're doing in crossovers. Just to be clear, anybody watching, I'm going to put links in the description. So when this is done, you'll see the VOD version that we're going to be promoting. Just check out the description and you'll see all the links to Roll the Cast and stuff, so you can go check out everything Phil has going on. As well as, like you mentioned, our Sirenscape sponsor is doing that official Art Talsorian Games weekly gameplay with Phil as the official GM. So I'll put the link to that as well, so everyone can tune in.
Yeah, it's three more episodes about to go live. Yeah. So we're getting towards the end. So things are hotting up there. That's really good. The Rollcast is an audio only. It's like a radio drama kind of style with music and transitions and sound effects and stuff. So it's a kind of like a focused style, like inside those games. Yeah, if you want to find it, it's on all the good places. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find it. So it's Roll to Cast, ROLE rather than ROLL. So ROLE to cast. And yeah, we love people to come and see what we're doing with that. We're super proud of it. As we say, we play a different game every season. Cyberpunk Red's been one of our absolute favorite things to do. Obviously, I'm still making Cyberpunk Red content. It was such a good time to do. But if you want to discover sort of some RPGs you might not have played or heard before, really good to drop in. Or maybe they'll do, I'll listen to the Vampire season. At the moment, we're doing Pulp Cthulhu, which is very, very silly, lots of dumb accents. And then we're doing like Kids on Bikes coming up as well, which is going to be a lot of fun, playing some Aussie kids in rural Australia in the 70s. So it's going to be a bit of Australiana there as well. And we change our storyteller around as well, focus on who tells the best story in each circumstance. So there's a lot of fun to be had in kind of different styles of RPG. So we like to give people that variety. And if you want to come into the community and talk about ideas you have and things you want to see more of, we're totally welcome to have you there as well. It's all under the banner of Baby Beard Media. If you want to search that up, we do Let's Play content and stuff as well. So we'd love to have more people in the community. We're really happy with the people who've popped up so far. They've all been super awesome.
Oh, yeah, and you guys do awesome. I really love the gameplay. That's how I first learned about you. Like when we first met, I was already watching your gameplays and listening to them, actually, your podcast, while I work out and shit daily. I really enjoy it.
Cool, thanks, man.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing with the Sirenscape stuff too. It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's really fun to do such a role play heavy game, which is I love combat. I love the combat in Red. It's very destructive and very explosive. But it's really fun to have these 4 awesome, really strong role players and see where they take the world. So much fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I want to remind everyone too, second Saturday of every month we do the GM Roundtable. That's coming up here on the 13th, I believe. So make that a plan. Tune in. We do the GM Roundtable, and we usually cover, great subjects that can help game masters and players alike, but it's also entertaining. We have, different sections to the episodes. So yeah, we dive into the main topic at hand, but we also talk about shit we have going on. We'll engage with the chat and kind of have like a Choomba chat section as well. It's a lot of fun. And this next GM Roundtable on the 13th, we have a couple special guests. I believe James Hutt and Jay Gray are going to be joining us, Phil.
Ooh, yeah.
I just confirmed that the other day in email. I didn't even get a chance to message you about that yet, but there's the announcement.
They're both super awesome. They're great. I've had chats. Jay is amazing. Had lots of chats with him. He's been part of the opportunities I've had in Cyberpunk Red and getting the early rules and stuff. He's just such a good ambassador for the game and the company. And James Hutt, balancing genius. He's the guy behind the nitty gritty of how Red goes together mechanically. And so that'd be super amazing to have them to chat to. Be interested to see what topic we have with those guys.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too, because Quincy, Renegade in chat said awesome. Quincy said, "Oh, that's gonna be preems," and that just made me think. And as you were talking, I was like, "God damn, we need to pick a really good subject to talk about." And I was almost debating like, man, if we come up with like a couple subjects and trail back on some of the other shit we normally do, just to put more time into getting to really talk the meat and potatoes with these guys,
Yeah, I think so.
I'm also open chat if you guys want to message either me or Phil, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Discord. Look up Baby Beard Media, Cyberpunk Uncensored. Hit us up if you anybody watching this, if you have ideas for subjects you want the GM Roundtable to cover. Since we're going to have Jay Gray and James Hutt there, that'd be great. And on the 13th, we usually do it. I want to say we do the GM Roundtable at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I think that's when we typically do it. But yeah, anybody that has requests for subjects for us to cover with that, hit us up anytime. But yeah, that being said, I think we rocked the hell out of the MedTech today. I had a good time.
Cool. Yeah, I certainly did. Yeah, and I got a bunch of new ideas for MedTech NPCs and characters. So.
Me too. Totally. Yeah, and hopefully everybody in chat found it useful as well. If you did, follow Cyberpunk Uncensored on Twitch. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Give this video a like. Give it a share if you're watching this right now and you like it. Hell, even if you don't like it, give it a like and a share anyways. Fuck it, Other than that, thanks so much for joining me, Phil. I love having you on any of the series and things I do. I look forward to talking to you sometime soon about some gameplay crossover. I think that'll be really fun.
That'd be super rad. No, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah, yeah, and Renegade says say hello to Ellen, so make sure you tell her hi from Renegade.
Yay, we'll do. Along.
Hell yeah, yeah, and everybody in chat, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate all the series that we do at Cyberpunk Uncensored. I always try to refer to chat, whether gameplay, series, whatever, and man, y'all always jump in there and contribute a lot of great ideas and questions and things. I can't thank you enough, seriously. You make the community what it is. You keep putting fuel on the fire, and I love it. But yeah, that being said, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks so much, Phil, for joining. Everybody for tuning in. Again, I'm gonna drop links in the description when we VOD this, so you can find Phil, myself, all the shit that we talked about. And yeah, any final words before I kill the transmission?
No, man. Stay preem, folks.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.